you ever imagined a farm machine so big, so powerful, and so loud that it looks like it escaped from a mine, a heavy construction site, or even a war movie? We are not talking about ordinary tractors, small combines, or discrete equipment. This is something else. Farm machines so exaggerated that when they show up in the field, they make the ground shake, raise clouds of dust, swallow acres, and make anyone look twice. Others have enough power to pull absurd implements, and some simply look too strong to be considered normal agricultural machines. Are you ready to see how far agricultural engineering can go when size, power, and productivity are pushed to the limit? Stay with me, because the last machine on this list is so exaggerated that it sounds like a farm legend. But it exists, it roars loud, and it has already become one of the most famous tractors on the planet. Fend 1000 Vario Gen 4. The Fend 1000 Vario Gen 4 is the kind of modern tractor that impresses not only because of its size, but because of the controlled way it delivers power. Built by Fend, the German brand from the AGCO Group, it was created for large-scale farming, pulling wide and heavy implements that ordinary tractors simply could not handle with the same efficiency. This generation uses a MAN 6-cylinder inline engine with around 12.4 liters, reaching the top of the lineup with approximately 550 horsepower. That is enough power to pull heavy disc harrows, subsoilers, large planters, grain carts, and work for hours in hard, wet, or uneven soil. The transmission is the Vario, a continuously variable transmission that adjusts speed and power without harsh gear changes. In practice, the operator can work slowly with constant power, keeping the engine in its ideal range while the tractor pulls demanding implements without losing smoothness. The wheel setup can use giant tires and dual configurations, increasing soil contact and helping reduce compaction. With all-wheel drive and electronic management, it distributes power between the axles intelligently, maintaining grip even when the field gets heavy. In the field, its presence commands respect. A long hood, high cab, huge tires, strong lights, and that deep sound of a big engine working without seeming to be at its limit. It feels less like an ordinary machine and more like a power station moving across the soil. In real-world use, the Fend 1000 Vario Gen 4 is used on large-scale farms, mainly in soybeans, corn, wheat, and operations that require wide implements. It solves an expensive problem, doing more work in less time with fewer passes, more control, and precision technology. The legacy of this line is showing that raw power and electronic intelligence can work together. It is a tractor that doesn't seem illegal because it is out of control, but because it delivers so much strength with so much ease, comfort, and precision. And if this one already seems exaggerated for an ordinary farm, the next machine does not pull the crop. It goes into cotton and turns harvesting into an almost industrial operation. John Deere CP770. The John Deere CP770 is the type of machine that makes anyone stop at the edge of the field just to watch. Launched by John Deere in the United States, it was built to harvest large cotton fields, reduce downtime, and deliver the crop already compacted into round modules. The heart of this machine is a John Deere PowerTech 6-cylinder engine with 13.6 liters, delivering around 555 horsepower. That power exists because the CP770 needs to harvest, clean, move the cotton internally, compact it, and form modules while it keeps moving through the field. The transmission is hydrostatic, common in harvesting machines because it provides smooth speed control. That is essential in cotton, where the machine needs to maintain precise forward movement to harvest properly, avoid losses, and preserve fiber quality. Visually, the CP770 is intimidating, wide, full of body panels, with the front dedicated to harvesting and the rear prepared to form huge modules. When it works, entire rows of cotton disappear in front of it, while dust rises and the engine holds a constant load. Its practical impact is huge in large cotton fields, especially in producing regions of the United States, Brazil, and other large-scale countries. It reduces labor, cuts downtime, and makes logistics easier, since the cotton leaves the field in modules ready for transport. The legacy of this machine is turning cotton harvesting into a much more continuous process. For many growers, it represents a turning point in crop mechanization, bringing together tasks that once required more equipment, more time, and more people. On field days, a harvester of this size catches attention even from people who are already used to big machines. Seeing a round module come out ready in the middle of the field gives the feeling of watching a mobile factory working on wheels. And it already looks too big to be just a cotton harvester. But the next machine enters a different territory. A grain combine built to swallow soybeans, corn, wheat, and other crops on a heavy scale. Case IH Axial Flow 9250. The Case IH Axial Flow 9250 shows why modern harvesting has become a race against time. Built by Case IH, a brand with a strong presence in the United States and around the world, it belongs to the Axial Flow family, known for its single rotor system and simpler crop flow. This machine arrived for large farms where the harvest window is short and every hour of downtime hurts. It uses an FPT Cursor 6-cylinder engine with approximately 12.9 liters, reaching around 550 horsepower at maximum power, depending on the configuration. That power does not seed only the movement of the machine, but also the threshing system, separation, cleaning, straw chopper, unloading, and wide headers, all working at the same time. It is power applied directly to productivity, not just numbers on a spec sheet. The transmission is hydrostatic, allowing progressive control of forward speed. In a combine, that is vital, because the operator needs to adjust the pace according to yield, moisture, straw volume, and the feeding capacity of the header. The Axial Flow system uses a rotor to thresh and separate the grain in a continuous way. The grain tank goes beyond the 14,000-liter range in some configurations, and the fast unloading helps reduce downtime, keeping the machine working longer inside the field. In the field, the image is heavy. A wide header, large tires, or the option of tracks in some versions, straw being processed behind it, dust rising, and a high cab with great visibility. At night, with the lights on, it looks like an industry moving across the crop. Its impact appears in large soybean, corn, wheat, and other crop fields where reducing losses and increasing harvested acres per day is a priority. With yield maps, automatic adjustments, and onboard technology, it helps the operator harvest better and make more precise decisions. The Axial Flow 9250 also carries strong cultural weight. The Axial Flow family became a reference among rotor combines, and that gives this machine a special respect in the field, especially among farmers who value simple crop flow and large capacity. And if the Axial Flow 9250 already seems too strong when it swallows a field, the next machine changes the game completely. It comes on tracks and was built to pull implements that would make many tractors beg for a break. Versatile DeltaTrac 620. The Versatile DeltaTrac 620 is one of those tractors that seem designed for places where ordinary tires start to suffer. Built by Versatile, a Canadian brand with tradition in articulated tractors, it was created for large farms that need heavy traction, stability, and a lot of power in tillage, planting, and large-scale cultivation. The engine is a Cummins QSX 6-cylinder inline with 15 liters, delivering around 620 horsepower. It is a setup built to pull wide and heavy implements such as cultivators, disc harrows, subsoilers, large planters, and equipment that demands constant power during long workdays. The transmission is power shift, meaning a gearbox with gear changes under load, very common in large tractors. In practice, this allows the tractor to keep working hard even when the soil gets heavy, without needing to interrupt the rhythm at every change in terrain. The big visual and practical difference is the 4 rubber tracks. Instead of relying only on tires, the DeltaTrac spreads the weight over a larger area, improves flotation in soft soils, and reduces compaction, something very important in fields where the soil needs to stay productive for many years. When it shows up in the field, the scene is striking. The central articulation makes the tractor bend in the middle. The tracks bite into the soil firmly. The engine works at a heavy RPM, and dust rises behind the implement like a work front opening a path through the field. In practice, this tractor is used in large grain areas, especially in regions like Canada, the United States, and other extensive agricultural zones. It solves the problem of pulling huge equipment in difficult soils, maintaining grip where conventional tractors could slip more and lose efficiency. The DeltaTrac also carries its own charm, as a strong alternative in the high-horsepower articulated tractor market. It is not just brute force. It has that look of a specialized machine, built for a producer who knows exactly how big the challenge ahead really is. If you enjoy seeing big tractors, heavy combines, and farm machines working up a limit, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell. Because from this point on, the list starts leaving big behind and entering absurd territory. Now hold on, because if 4 tracks already seem excessive, the next machine enters the field with an even more intimidating mission: harvesting grain on a scale that feels too big for a single combine. John Deere X9 1100. The John Deere X9 1100 is a combine built with one direct goal: harvest more, lose less, and work in huge fields without turning every plot into a slow operation. Built by John Deere, it emerged as one of the brand's most advanced machines for large grain producers. It uses a John Deere PowerTech 6-cylinder engine with 13.6 liters, delivering up to around 690 horsepower at maximum power. That force feeds a massive structure with a high-capacity threshing and separation system, wide headers, and an intense flow of material moving through the machine all the time. The transmission is hydrostatic, allowing smooth control of forward speed. This is essential in soybeans, corn, wheat, and canola, because the machine needs to adapt to the field's productivity without overloading the system and without throwing grain away along the way. One of the most impressive points is its working capacity. The X9 1100 can have a grain tank of approximately 16,200 liters, depending on the configuration, and an extremely high unloading rate. That means less time stopped unloading and more time doing what truly matters: harvesting. Visually, it commands respect. With a wide header up front, a tall body, an elevated cab, and huge tires or tracks in some versions, the X9 looks like a wall moving across the field. The sound of the loaded engine, straw coming out behind it, and grain climbing through the unloading auger create a scene every farm machinery fan understands right away. In practice, this combine works on large-scale farms, where the harvest window is short and the weather does not forgive. It reduces the need for several smaller machines, increases the number of acres harvested per day, and helps the producer hit the crop's ideal timing more efficiently. The X9 1100 became a symbol of modern harvesting because it combines power, automation, sensors, yield maps, and intelligent adjustments inside the cab. It is not just a large combine. It is a harvesting center that thinks, measures, and corrects while it works. And if the X9 already seems like a machine at the edge of logic, the next one shows that there was still room to increase capacity, size, and the feeling of watching a grain factory moving across the field. New Holland CR11. The New Holland CR11 arrived to make noise among the largest combines in the world. Presented by New Holland, a brand with a strong global tradition, it was created to raise harvest capacity in large grain areas, especially where every day in the harvest window is worth serious money. The engine is an FPT Cursor 16 with 6 cylinders inline and around 15.9 liters, delivering approximately 775 horsepower. That is an absurd amount of power to keep the entire harvesting system working with giant headers, high straw volume, grain entering non-stop, and unloading at accelerated pace. The transmission is hydrostatic, allowing smooth and precise speed control. In a machine of this size, that is fundamental, because it needs to move at the right pace to use its enormous capacity without sacrificing grain quality, cleaning, or losses in the field. The CR11 uses the twin rotor concept, an important signature of New Holland's CR line. The system was developed to process a large volume of material with high efficiency, separating grain and straw continuously, something essential in crops such as wheat, soybeans, corn, and canola. The grain tank can reach around 20,000 liters, a number that puts this combine in another category. The unloading rate is also extremely high, allowing a huge load to be emptied in just a few minutes, as long as the farm's logistics can keep up with the machine's pace. In the field, the CR11 looks almost exaggerated. A wide body, high cab, monumental header, tires or tracks built to support serious weight, and a visual presence that dominates the landscape. When it enters a wheat or soybean field, it feels like watching an entire line disappear before your eyes. Its practical impact is on very large farms, where productivity per hour makes a real difference. It was designed to harvest more acres per day, reduce stops, improve efficiency, and work connected to precision agriculture, telematics, and operation management systems. The CR11 also arrived with the face of a historic machine, because it represents a new competition between manufacturers to see who can deliver the most productive and technological combine. At farm shows, a machine this size is not just displayed. It becomes a meeting point, a photo opportunity, and a conversation starter among growers. And from here on, the list changes sound. The roar of grain harvesting gives way to a machine that devours entire plants to turn crops into feed, silage, and raw power in motion. Fend Katana 850. The Fend Katana 850 enters this list because it does not harvest just one crop. It devours green mass at a pace that seems too aggressive for an ordinary farm machine. Built by Fend in Germany, this forage harvester was created for large silage, biogas, and intensive livestock operations, where volume, cutting quality, and speed make all the difference. The engine is a Liebherr 6-cylinder inline with around 18 liters, delivering approximately 847 horsepower. That is enormous power applied to the feeding, cutting, processing, and launching system that throws chopped material into the wagon or truck running alongside the machine. The transmission is hydrostatic, allowing smooth speed control in the field. This is essential because the Katana needs to adjust its forward movement according to crop density, whether it is corn for silage, grass, sorghum, or other forage crops. If the crop mass gets heavy, it needs to maintain power without losing flow. The cutting system uses a high-capacity chopping rotor and a kernel processor, especially important in corn silage. The idea is not just to cut fast, but to deliver well-processed material with uniform length and good kernel cracking, improving use in animal feed or biogas production. Visually, the Katana 850 looks like a beast with a low front and a huge body. The harvesting header swallows the crop. The material disappears inside the machine and then shoots out through the discharge spout in a strong stream, filling trailers in motion. The sound is deep, continuous, and heavy, with the smell of diesel, cut plants, and dust mixed in the air. In practice, it is used on dairy farms, feedlots, large silage production properties, and biomass operations. It solves the problem of harvesting a huge amount of material in a short time, maintaining quality and reducing losses, especially when the ideal silage window is short. The Katana's legacy is representing a category of machines that few people see up close, but that supports a major part of modern animal production. For those who work with silage, a forage harvester of this size is not a luxury. It is a central piece of productivity, precision, and harvest rhythm. And if the Katana 850 already impresses by turning an entire crop into silage with brutality, the next one returns to the world of tracked tractors, but now with enough power to make the ground feel small. Case IH Steiger 785 Quadtrac. The Case IH Steiger 785 Quadtrac is the kind of tractor that does not try to look discreet. It was born to be huge, heavy, and dominant. Built by Case IH inside the legendary Steiger family, this model represents one of the most extreme stages of modern articulated tractors, built for large areas and implements that demand absurd power. The engine is an FPT Cursor 16 with 6 cylinders inline and around 15.9 liters, delivering approximately 778 horsepower. That power is used to pull giant cultivators, heavy disc harrows, wide planters, deep subsoilers, and large capacity carts, in operations where a smaller tractor simply would not keep the pace. The transmission is power drive power shift, a gearbox with gear changes under load. In simple terms, it allows the operator to keep power applied even when the soil changes, when the implement sinks deeper, or when the operation demands constant torque for many hours. The Quadtrac system uses 4 independent rubber tracks, one on each corner of the tractor. This increases soil contact area, improves traction, reduces slippage, and helps distribute weight better, something essential when working in wet soils, large areas, or terrain where compaction is a serious concern. Its visual presence is almost intimidating. It bends in the middle through the central articulation, moves forward with 4 tracks marking the soil, carries a huge hood, and has a high cab that looks like a command post. When it is pulling a wide implement, the whole setup looks more like a heavy engineering operation than a farming activity. In the field, this tractor is used in large grain operations, especially soybeans, corn, wheat, and other large-scale crops. It solves traction, productivity, and more, and operational window problems, allowing huge areas to be worked with fewer passes and larger implements, especially on farms that cannot afford to waste time. The Steiger also carries strong cultural weight. The line comes from a respected history among articulated tractors, and the Steiger name carries an image of toughness, power, and heavy work. The Quadtrac expanded that reputation by putting 4 tracks on a machine that was already brutal by nature. This one already impresses in the field, but the next machine enters a direct fight for the top of modern horsepower. With numbers so high, they sound more like a locomotive than an agricultural tractor. John Deere 9RX 830. The John Deere 9RX 830 is one of John Deere's most aggressive answers for anyone who needs extreme power in the field. Built by the American brand, it is part of the 4-track tractor line created for large agricultural operations, where power, traction, and technology need to work together without waste. The engine is a John Deere JD8 tune with 6 cylinders in line and 18 liters, delivering around 830 nominal horsepower. That is an absurd number for an agricultural tractor, but necessary to pull giant implements in tillage, large-scale planting, and heavy operations on farms that work thousands of acres. The transmission is E21 PowerShift, a gearbox with gears under load that helps maintain proper power and speed without interrupting work. In heavy field conditions, that means the operator can move through changes in soil resistance while keeping traction and productivity, without losing rhythm at every variation. The 4-rubber track system gives the 9RX a monstrous look and a very practical function. It improves flotation, increases contact area, reduces slippage, and delivers grip in difficult conditions. Instead of tearing up the soil for nothing, the machine tries to turn power into useful traction. The 9RX 830 is a green and yellow wall moving across the field. The hood is enormous, the cab sits high, the tracks work like tank bases, and the setup with wide implements seems to dominate the field from end to end. Up close, the deep sound of the engine and the size of the structure make any mid-sized tractor look small. In practice, it works on large grain farms, especially in extensive agricultural regions of the United States, Canada, Brazil, and other countries with huge areas. It solved the problem of productivity at scale, pulling implements that cover wide working wicks and reduce the number of passes across the field. The 9RX 830 also shows how the modern tractor is no longer just raw power. It brings auto guidance, connectivity, telematics, electronic adjustments, and integration with precision agriculture, allowing so much horsepower to be used with control, efficiency, and less waste of time and fuel. And when it seems like 830 horsepower should already be the limit of what is acceptable, the number 1 machine appears. A legendary giant, custom-built, so big and so famous that it practically became the final boss of agricultural tractors. Big Bud 16V747. The Big Bud 16V747 is the machine that seems to have been created when someone looked at an ordinary tractor and thought, this is still too small. Built in 1977 by Northern Manufacturing Company in the United States, it was born as a custom project to work on giant farms, mainly in heavy tillage operations. The engine is a Detroit Diesel 16-cylinder V engine with around 24 liters, originally configured in the range of 760 horsepower and later tuned to reach close to 900 horsepower. That is enough power to pull enormous implements, with working widths that in some operations reach dozens of meters, doing in one pass what would take much longer with smaller tractors. The transmission is manual, with a robust mechanical setup built to handle heavy field loads. Unlike modern tractors full of electronics, the Big Bud has a more brutal, more direct, almost industrial presence, where every gear, every roar, and every effort seem to show mechanical power working without a filter. The wheel setup is a show of its own. The Big Bud became famous for its giant tires, and during part of its life it used tires so large that replacement became a problem. Later, it received a dual tire configuration, precisely because finding original tires of that size became difficult, showing how far outside the normal agricultural scale it really was. Visually, it is absurd. It is more than 8 meters long, more than 6 meters wide in some configurations, and weighs easily into the dozens of tons. When it moves through the field, the hood looks like a wall, the cab sits high above, the engine roars heavily, and the whole machine gives the feeling that the field is being dominated by a mining tractor. It was used mainly in large wheat fields and tillage operations in the state of Montana, in the United States. The mission was simple and brutal: pull giant implements to cover a huge area in less time. On farms that size, every saved pass meant fuel, work hours, and real productivity. The legacy of the Big Bud 16V747 is almost impossible to separate from agricultural culture. It became an attraction at events, a historic piece, a symbol of mechanical exaggeration, and a reference whenever the subject is the largest agricultural tractor ever built. Few machines can leave the field and become a legend, but the Big Bud did exactly that, and that is why it closes this list at the top. Because some machines look big, others look powerful, but the Big Bud 16V747 simply looks forbidden to exist, as if agriculture had created its own steel monster to prove that size, noise, and power can still impress any generation. After this list, it is hard to look at an ordinary farm machine the same way again. We saw 4-track tractors, combines capable of swallowing entire fields, cotton harvesters that form modules right in the field, silage machines that devour whole plants, and a legendary tractor so big it feels more like a myth than agricultural equipment. These machines are not exaggerated by accident. They exist because modern farming needs scale, power, precision, and productivity. In its own way, shows how agricultural engineering has been pushed to the limit to solve real problems: harvesting faster, pulling larger implements, reducing losses, taking advantage of short windows, and turning heavy work into real production. Now tell me in the comments, which of these machines seemed the most exaggerated for working on a small farm? Which one would you most like to see up close in full operation? And which farm machine was missing from this list of machines that seemed too big, too loud, or too powerful? If you enjoy this type of content, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell. This is very important for the growth of the channel, because it shows YouTube that this content is relevant and helps the video reach more people who also enjoy farm machines, tractors, combines, and giant equipment from the field. Because every week there is a new video about the most incredible, brutal, and impressive machines in the world. I'll see you in the next video.